At 12:47 a.m., Daniel had somehow convinced himself he was meant to become a documentary filmmaker. Again, his laptop screen glowed in the dark. Half-drunk coffee beside him. 27 tabs open. One tab, how to tell cinematic stories. Another, best countries for digital nomads. Another, can you learn psychology without university? 3 hours earlier, he was researching how to build a startup. The night before that, he wanted to become a fitness coach. And somewhere between his 5th saved YouTube playlist and another unfinished Notion plan, Daniel felt something most people never admit out loud. Fear. Not fear of failure. Fear of wasting his life becoming nobody. Because deep down, he couldn't tell whether his curiosity was a gift or a distraction slowly destroying his future. And right now, millions of intelligent people are trapped in the exact same psychological loop. Not because they lack ambition, but because modern life has created a problem the human brain was never designed to handle. Until you realize how often it happens. Psychologists are beginning to notice something strange about modern ambition. For the first time in history, many people are no longer struggling because they lack opportunity. They're struggling because they've been exposed to too many possible lives. And for people like Daniel, this usually unfolds in 5 psychological stages, too many possible identities. 100 years ago, most people had limited choices. Today, before lunch, your phone can convince you to become a creator, a millionaire entrepreneur, a minimalist monk, a tech founder, a fitness influencer, or someone making peaceful coffee videos in the mountains. Modern life doesn't just give you information anymore. It sells you entire personalities. And the disturbing part is, every single one feels emotionally real. One video can make you question your life direction. One podcast can suddenly make your career feel meaningless. One cinematic montage of someone journaling in Tokyo, and now you're considering rebuilding your entire personality around philosophy books and linen shirts, which sounds ridiculous. 5 stages that slowly transform curiosity into confusion. And unless you understand them, your mind can quietly become psychological quicksand. The first stage is the dopamine stage. This is where curiosity still feels exciting, dangerously exciting, because every new interest temporarily upgrades your identity. You don't just watch a video about filmmaking. Emotionally, you become a filmmaker. Your brain starts simulating an entirely new future. You imagine the lifestyle, the confidence, the freedom, the version of yourself that finally figured life out. And neuroscience explains why this feels so powerful. Researchers found dopamine spikes highest not when we achieve something, but when we anticipate it. Meaning, your brain can reward you chemically for imagining progress before any real progress exists. Which explains why reorganizing your productivity system somehow feels productive, even though your biggest achievement that day was choosing a better font for your goals page. And modern algorithms understand this perfectly. Every platform is engineered to keep introducing new possible versions of yourself, new careers, new aesthetics, new philosophies, new lifestyles. The moment you feel uncertain about your future, the algorithm delivers another person who appears to have already solved life. And for a few minutes, you believe them until reality arrives, which leads to the second stage, the friction stage. This is where fantasy collides with repetition. The filmmaker discovers editing is mostly sitting alone, moving clips around for 7 hours. The entrepreneur discovers business involves spreadsheets, taxes, and stress-induced stomach problems. The gym transformation becomes less cinematic montage, and more washing the same protein shaker every night. Suddenly, the exciting identity loses emotional intensity. And this is the exact moment most people escape. Not because they're weak, but because another exciting future is already waiting one scroll away. Modern life has made restarting unbelievably easy. The second things become uncomfortable. Your brain can instantly escape into another identity, And over time, this creates a dangerous addiction. The addiction to beginnings. Starting feels meaningful. Planning feels meaningful. Researching feels meaningful. But movement and progress are not the same thing. A person can spend years emotionally preparing for a life they never actually enter. And this creates the third stage, the identity debt stage. This is where curiosity becomes mentally heavy, because every abandoned path leaves something behind. Psychologists call this the zeigarnikeffect. Unfinished goals continue occupying mental energy even after we stop pursuing them, which means Daniel's brain was still carrying the podcast he almost launched, the screenplay he almost wrote, the business he almost started, the language he almost learned, the person he almost became, all at once. This is why so many people today feel strangely exhausted despite being physically safe. Their minds are crowded with unfinished versions of themselves. And eventually, comparison enters the picture. At 22, curiosity looks ambitious. At 32, it starts feeling like your life is buffering. Because while your identity kept changing, someone else stayed consistent. Now they have expertise, momentum, stability, clarity, and you still feel like a beginner. Again, this is usually where people begin attacking themselves. They call themselves distracted, inconsistent, lazy. Daniel did too, until one sentence changed how he saw himself. A friend asked him, "What if your interests aren't competing? What if they're collecting?" That question unlocked the fourth stage, the pattern stage. This is where certain people suddenly realized their curiosity was never random. It was building layers. Daniel noticed his interest in psychology improved storytelling. Storytelling improved communication. Communication improved business. Business improved the way he understood people. And suddenly, his interests stopped feeling disconnected. They became a network. This is becoming incredibly valuable in the modern world, because the future increasingly rewards people who can connect ideas across different worlds. A creator who understands psychology becomes rare. A programmer who understands storytelling becomes rare. A business person who understands design becomes a dangerous one. And this may become even more important in the age of AI, because AI can replicate isolated skills faster every year. But humans who combine creativity, emotional intelligence, storytelling, adaptability, strategy become much harder to replace, which means your curiosity may not actually be holding you back. It may be preparing you for a future where adaptability becomes more valuable than rigid specialization. But there's one final stage, and almost nobody reaches it: the framework stage. This is where people stop searching for one perfect identity forever and start building systems instead. Daniel stopped asking, "Who should I become forever?" and started asking, "What deserves my focus right now?" That single shift changed everything, because now he no longer needed to solve his entire life immediately. He simply focused on building one pillar at a time. One season for writing, one season for health, one season for business. And slowly, his life stopped feeling chaotic, not because he eliminated curiosity, but because he finally learned how to organize it, which may be the real challenge of modern life. Not lack of ambition, not lack of intelligence, but surviving a world constantly trying to fragment your identity in 100 different directions. So maybe your problem was never lack of focus. Maybe modern life turned identity itself into entertainment. And maybe the people who currently feel the most lost are simply the people trying to process more possible lives than any generation before them ever had to carry.